Hi everyone, Ink Rose here. Today I'm going to be doing a bit of a character design exploration video of two of my favorite character designs in League of Legends, aka Xayah and Rakan. Speaking of Xayah and Rakan, who are birds, we're going to be hearing a bit of a bird in the background because one of my birds is flying around the place right now, so you might be hearing a few little here and there. So it just adds to the ambiance. After all, we are talking about a pair of lovebirds right here, and there's a actual literal lovebird in the background, so I hope that doesn't bother you too much. Anyway, so lately I've been kind of doing I've been really busy with a bunch of art stuff and art school stuff, work stuff, commissioning type of things. So I haven't really been able to do a lot of videos at all lately, or streaming, as you guys have probably noticed. So instead I was thinking of kind of I might not be able to have time to do a lot of editing, but if I can do some of these long form, unscripted types of videos, I'll see what you guys think of them, and when I have time to do editing with some of these videos, I'll do it, but for now I might be able to get at least some kind of video content out by doing these kinds of discussion type videos. And I've been playing League of Legends for like almost 5 years now, and one of my favorite parts by far is, the character design and the art direction. The League art team, that's one of the reasons I keep playing the game for as long as I have, is because of the gosh darn art team. So good. And of course a lot of the companies that they partner with to make some of these cinematics, and sometimes they outsource some of their artwork as well. So I'm going to be doing my best to my take on analyzing Xayah and Rakan's designs and where I think they're really good, and why, in my opinion, Xayah and Rakan are perhaps some of the best designed characters in the game. But I think one of the reasons that they are as well designed as they are is because they're designed around one another. And when you have two characters coming together to form one design, you're able to do a lot with that. See, when you only have one character representing an entire theme, that's great, and you can do a lot with that. But when you have two characters who are able to come together to form a theme, you have so many more options for what you want to do. And because they designed Xayah and Rakan together and purposefully made them complementary to one another, they're able to do a lot with the designs are kind of simple, but because there's two of them, because they're together, they're complex in how they interact with one another. So if you've seen the little video that Riot put together about some of the design background of Xayah and Rakan, you'll know that their main goal sort of was to have this female character who is light and kind of skinny and very sharp, and she's the one who is the stealthy one who actually kills you, while Rakan is the big flamboyant male character who is kind of soft and flowing, but he's the one that distracts you, while the one, Xayah, she's the one who kind of finishes the job. And the way that they did the character design to really reflect a lot of this is very interesting, and I'm going to go into it right now. So a lot of what I'll focus on is shape language and color in this video, because I think shape language and color is perhaps the biggest reasons why these designs are so gosh darn brilliant. So I'm going to be going over a few different images of Xayah and Rakan. I'm going to be sort of drawing over them to redlining to show certain things. So that's why I have my little Photoshop up right here. And I've got a bunch of these little tabs up here for all these different images. So what I really wanted to start out with was the shape language. So the shape language of Xayah and Rakan is great because, like I was explaining earlier, Xayah, is more of the sharp one who's stealthy, who gets the job done. Rakan is the more flamboyant one who grabs your attention. The way they do this with shapes and to show off their personalities is, number one, Xayah has a hood that automatically means she's trying to hide herself. Don't look at me. Don't pay attention to me. I'm not the one you should be looking at. Rakan, meanwhile, has a collar that specifically shows off his head, his face. The lines point out in this direction to say, look at me. Hello, I am here. I'm the one to pay attention to. I'm the one dancing around, doing my thing. They've also, of course, he's got his male sort of triangular design right here, which sort of shows off with the broad shoulders grab your attention. Of course, that's also just part of male musculature and design in general, but because he's got these broad shoulders, it's saying, look over here, I'm the bigger one here. The bigger one is the one that will take your attention. And of course, he's got a big cape, very flowing cape, that, the cape flows along with his movements. He's a dancer. He has to have a lot of this flowing movement, and his cape emphasizes this, of course. And then you got Xayah over here. She's got a smaller cape, but her cape is different from Rakan's in that she's got very pointed feathers. She's got pointed shapes. Even her ears are very pointed. She's got pointed up. Rakan's hair is kind of flowing. It's kind of soft. It's going around. He's got this shape that's going up and saying, hello, look at me. Meanwhile, Xayah, sorry, I'm adjusting my camera a little bit. Xayah's, her cape and her hair is going down. She's got the pointed hair going down. And she's also got, notice how her dress kind of goes down as well. It's pointed, it's down. Meanwhile, Rakan's sort of boots here are pointed up. So you can see already here that Rakan is pointing up and Xayah is pointing down, because you need to look up at Rakan, and Xayah, she's going to be crouching down. She's going down. So you've got a dynamic here that really works. Even Rakan's feathers are sort of angling up here at the ends, because Rakan is going up. You need to look up and pay attention to him. She's down. Don't look at her. She's supposed to be stealthy. See what I mean? There's so much ways they're using the shapes here. It's great. I love it. Mwah. Again, and the most brilliant thing, too, is, of course, the way their feather designs complement one another. Her feathers are sharp. His feathers are very soft. He's a protector. He's a soft person. He doesn't deal damage. He's a support. His cape, his feathers are huge and billowing in order to use them as a shield for Xayah. Xayah's feathers are sharp and darting around, because she's going to be using them as a weapon. So you can see here that this shape design really, really shows what these two are meant to be, especially the way their head ornaments are, from his collar to her hood. It's great. Fantabulous. Love it. And that's kind of what I had to say when it comes to their shape language. And this also really comes into play when you look at them in-game. In-game, Xayah's got sharp feathers, like I was saying, where Khan's got long, drapey, soft feathers, which he uses as a shield. But you also notice that in-game, they specifically make it so that these capes, these feather capes, are sticking out. So you can very, very obviously see them at all different angles. Rakan, you can't quite see it as well because Xayah's is more like up, like a peacock's. Well, up like, like a tail, where it's like, shh. She's about to let her feathers loose and kill people with them. Rakan's is more drapey, he's more relaxed. Xayah is on edge. You can see her, her posing is very, what would you say? Her posing is very tight, very stiff. She's ready to let loose. Rakan's is flowing and gentle. And this is part of animation as well, how the two are animated in comparison to one another. Because Rakan's got this drapey look to him, and Xayah's is very sharp, and she's very quick movements. She's ready to flick her feathers at you. Rakan is ready to dance gracefully. So he's got more of a draping look. And we'll talk more about them in game, specifically about their colors and their color choices. But you can see how they also used posing to help differentiate them in game. when you look at their splash art, it's great because one of the main design factors of Xayah and Rakan is how they each have one wing, but their wings come together to form a pair of wings. So you can almost kind of imagine a bird in the middle. My little crappy bird drawing. You see how they come together, and especially when it came to their teaser image. Their teaser image was a little bit animated too, and it had this way of showing how they're united together. And you see how these wing shapes come together to draw your eye to where the two unite. These characters, as soon as you look at them, you realize these two are coming together to become united. They're a couple. They are part of one another. They come together to make a whole. And that's what you really want when you want to emphasize characters' relationship and dynamic to one another. So this is just a brilliant, quite honestly, this is a brilliant way of showing them come together to form one being. That's what love is. It's what being part of a husband and wife, these husband and wife together, their relationship. It's really great. So you can see they did the same thing in the splash as they did in the teaser. In the animated video, they do this too, where they have a scene after the building has collapsed, they're hugging each other and their wings like flare out. It's a beautiful visual dynamic and it works very well. And you see in the cosmic splash, they don't quite do this because they're not necessarily using the wing dynamic here. They're using another way of kind of uniting the characters, of having this composition that's kind of swirls around like this. It's a very round composition to complement this sun in the background. So you've got her kind of going like this around, rotating until you get to him. His body is curled, so it's rotating around the screen. So you get this beautiful swirling dynamic. If you could even almost see the picture like moving, where they're rotating around this sun, and then it's almost like a swirl where your vision swirls into here, and then bam, you're on the center where their hands are united together, creating new life, like husband and wife coming together to create new life. I don't know if that's necessarily what they were going for, but it really works. This is a great composition, and of course you can also have it turned so that Rakan is the one, on this side, he's the one that has kind of more focus, and she's the one over here. It all depends on what you're going for. But yeah, here, I'm turning it right now, and you kind of see how this works, how it kind of looks like they're floating in space, rotating around because of gravity. The gravity is bringing them closer together, as kind of like that cliche phrase. So now I wanted to go into the second part of this, which was the color dynamics. Now, very obviously, the biggest thing about them is that they are both mainly compromising colors. Complementing colors. Xayah is purple, mostly, and Rakan is orangish gold. And those colors are, they're opposite the color wheel, they're complementary. And that is by definition way of trying to have characters look like they belong to one another's by having each of them having a complementary color. It's why you have like a character who's red and a character who's blue, and they come together, or they're opposing because they're opposing on the color wheel. So you could have red versus blue, like in Halo, the red versus blue series. And those work really well as opposing colors. And like in Team Fortress 2 as well, red and blue are opposing colors. They're complementary. They're complementary and yet opposing, which is really interesting and really awesome. So that's used a lot. So in terms of Xayah and Rakan's design, I really wanted to focus on this illustration right there because it has some of the brighter colors, and this is a concept art piece. And I was going to show you not only how their colors are very complementary, but also how in their individual designs, right here and right here, when you separate them from one another, they still work on a design level. And so first off, I'm going to start with color blocking Xayah. So you'll notice with Xayah that her entire design is purple, variations on purple and pink. So the way they're able to have her with some of the same colors and yet still have a design that is readable in game and recognizable is because of the way they break up her colors throughout her design. So for example, you've got her dress. So for her dress, you've got this like pinkish purple, kind of a dark pink right here. But then it's broken up by this belt color right here. So you have that broken up design. So it's not just entirely this, it's broken up by the belt, and that helps distinguish the breast and chest area from her hips. And then her legs are distinguished by this color right here. So, and then her toes, you can see them peeking out so you can recognize them more. And then you've got her cape up here helping to distinguish where her shoulders are. And this comes down to form the cape as well. And then you've got part of it kind of coming up in lighter. And then you've got her face right here, which is a very, very light color. So your eyes are drawn to her face. But not only that, they also flank her face by a brighter pink than from what we saw on the dress. Because it's flanked by that brighter pink, our eyes are drawn toward her face. And of course, you always want the eyes drawn towards the face. Ah, my camera's been sinking. You always want the eyes drawn towards the face because that's where the eyes are, and the eyes are the window to the soul. You always want to be looking at the face because that's how we as humans relate to characters, is through a face. Very, very simple character design right there, but it's got to be reiterated because of how important it is. So you see, when we simplify Xayah to her base color concepts, we can still see where things are. We see that her chest area is here, we see that she's got a dress here, we see that her legs are here, and the way it's all blocked out is very nice. And we've got Rakan over here. Rakan has a chest area here. I don't believe the belt is that high in game. But you see that he's got this bright head, he's got very light chest, like your eyes are drawn toward his chest because he's like showing off, you know? Then he's got his belt to help break up where his chest and legs are, break them off from one another. Belts are very common in a lot of character designs because, again, they help break up the character design into more parts. So it's easier to process, I guess. I guess that's kind of how I'm interpreting it, but belts are used a lot to help break up color schemes too. So you've got another color here, you've got more greens here to help break up, and you've got his legs down here. Now this isn't the exact design he has in game, but it's still a good example of how he looks. You've got down here, blah blah blah, blah blah blah. He's got a big sweeping, you've got these feathers here complementing his hips. Then he's got that going out. Ooh. But then framing, but first also we've got this red peeking out, also drawing your eyes toward his head. And in game, this red streak also helps differentiate his hair from his head. You've got red feathers sticking out, but you see these colors are very bright and they attract your eye, especially this gold orange that flanks him. You've got this beautiful gold orange, and this complements directly with Xayah's. You see, as we put this orange over this purple, it looks beautiful because when Xayah and Rakan are together, they have these camera slips. We have these complementary colors that just come together and create something beautiful, just like you have the two wings coming together to create something beautiful as well. And that's Xayah and Rakan's design as a purpose. I know I'm kind of repeating things here, but some of these things deserve to be repeated because of how important they are. Notice also how we have the gauntlets breaking up the arm design so that we don't just have this color going all through it. If we just had his skin color going all through it, kind of boring. So we have these gauntlets to help break up that skin color. And it also just adds a little bit of excitement to the design. But you know what's also great about like their final designs over here is that you'll notice they're not entirely purple, and he's not entirely orange because they have bits of one another in their designs. Xayah has Rakan's orange feathers stuck here, and Rakan has Xayah's purple feathers right here. This is a great way of showing that they are connected to one another. They're a part of one another. These colors stand out on these characters purposefully so that it shows that, hello, look, there's a bit of Rakan on me. I love Rakan. Rakan is a part of me. And then Rakan has a bit of Xayah on him because he's like, Xayah is part of me, she's my other half. So they use colors in this way to show how these characters are connected to one another. It's adorable. So let me also talk a little bit about how they are in game. Notice too that in game, I feel like there's shimmer on Rakan's feathers. There's a shimmer of orange. So you get Rakan in game stands out more than Xayah does because he's got this little shimmer kind of animation that represents his shield ability. And he's got this bright red. And see also how I was saying the red streaks on his hair help to differentiate his face from his hair and helps to break up the shape of the white a bit. Because without this red, this white color could kind of blend into his face and it'd be a little harder to tell where his hair begins and his face ends. So they gotta have that little red streak there, not only to kind of represent in bird terms the little rooster thing that dangles off the rooster's head. I don't know what it's called, but so it's not only like to help reiterate I'm a bird man. It's also, well, I'm a bird and I'm a man because that's a rooster thing is for the male roosters. I mean, there's only male roosters, but you know what I mean. And it also helps break up his head. And then you've got these really bright colors, these beautiful oranges mixed with the reds, all very warm colors because Rakan is a warm character. Rakan is a happy, joyful, very exuberant type of character. So you want to use bright, warm colors to help show off his bright, warm personality. And Xayah, of course, she's cool, she's calm, she's collected, she's stealthy, she's emo, she's punk, you don't want to mess with her. So of course she uses a more dark palette that's a very cool color scheme as well as, but she's still got these little Rakan feathers on her that shows not only that she's connected to Rakan, but also maybe there's a hint of her personality that is a little bit more soft and warm. She has a bit of warmness in her, but it's hidden under a lot of cool, too cool for school type of a personality. You can also see too that these feathers on Rakan can not only indicate that he's connected to Xayah, but also that even amidst his exuberant, huge personality, he's also got a bit of seriousness and calmness in him. But it might take a little bit to reach that, and it might not seem like he's even capable of being serious at first, but those feathers can also indicate to us that, yeah, there is a bit of a serious side to him, but that's not necessarily who he is. It might take a little bit to reach that. So you can see even how basic colors can indicate a lot about a character. But also, of course, Xayah has these bright colors on her head to show you where her head is and to help break away her head from where her body and her feathers are. Her body is very dark colors so that her feathers and her head stand out, because that's what you want to be looking at, is her feathers and her head. Same with Rakan. His body has more dark colors down here. It helps that it's kind of like it's being has shadows on it. But then you see these bright, 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 bright colors right here to indicate, please look in this area. Don't look down here as much. We want you to look here. This arc is where we want you to look, not really here. That's just complimentary. That's just there because he needs to have a body, you know? Don't look here. Please look here. Oh, please look here. So, yeah. You see how the Xayah and Rakan, their shape language, their color, it's very important to them, very important to their design, the way they come together into one being, in a sense. the way they complement each other on virtually every single level, from shape language to color to just visual design to, like, so we can look here too back at some of their just clothing design elements. How Xayah's clothing is very close to her body. She has like more form-fitting type of things, especially these kind of wrappings right here, because she's not exuberant. She needs things to be close to her body so she can move around as easily as possible, so she can stay hidden in order to execute enemies. And Rakan's clothing, he's got these bulbous pants. Excuse me. He's got these bulbous pants. He's got these pants that are like flaring out. He's got these big flares on his legs right here. He's got, again, that collar that shoots out like, hello, I'm here. He's got feathers sticking out. He's got a big belt. He's got feathers going all over the place. Xayah's she's more of an inward shape like this, and Rakan's more of an outward shape like this, which again is complementary. Notice how these two shapes sort of come together. His shape kind of goes into her shape to complement each other. It's so cool! This is character design, my friends. Yes, indeed. So here's one of the older concept pieces for Xayah and Rakan, and I'm going to kind of show why I think this was very obviously changed into what the current design was. You can see there's a lot of the same shape language here, but Rakan really needed red up here. Rakan really needed that red up here to help break up the hair shape. He needed more of a he needed more puffy hair to help show off his personality more, because here he looks very like a serious elf. His clothes don't seem to really match. His clothes don't really seem to match with his serious gray tones to his skin and face. Rakan looks much happier and joyful here because he's got more pinks in his tone. He's got more life. When you've got more of a pink and reddish tone to your character's skin, it helps shows we're alive. I'm alive. I'm a very joyful character, because of course when you have gray skin like this, it's like, is he dead? Is he undead? Because it doesn't look like there's any blood in there. It looks like he's dead. Meanwhile with Xayah, you kind of want to have that grayishness because she's more cold and reserved, so you can continue to use more cold colors for her skin. But Rakan needs to have that pink because he's got like blood pumping through him. He is dancing all around. So this looks dead. He looks like a dead character here. It doesn't match with the feathers. And even then, the feathers obviously very much needed to be brightened. So you can see how this design, why it didn't quite work at first, and I needed to rework it into this. But there's still some great shape language here. There's still some great ideas here. They just needed to refine it more, and they did, and it turned out fantastic. Though it's more like, this is more of the final design, of course. Though their colors are much brighter in game. This is just more of a... Anyway, I just think this is beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. You can see all of the way each artist contributed to a whole piece. It's almost like Xayah and Rakan coming together to form a whole, the way all these different concept artists came together to form a whole. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. I love it. But you can see too that this blue kind of breaks up her form too much. Like, you can see they were trying to make it so that these two blues would sort of complement one another. Hers is up here, his is down here. But the blue might have ended up just being too much. It almost made Xayah... It didn't really work with her pink, I think. They needed to change it to... Yeah, I just think the blue might have been too much color. It was a little bit too much, and they needed to tone it down a little bit, which they ended up doing. So blue wasn't necessarily the right choice here, which is, of course, they obviously recognized that and remedied it. But again, you can still see the way the shapes complement one another, and they did very well with that at first, and then they absolutely perfected the color schemes later on. So I'm about wrapped up here. It's mostly what I was going to say, but I'm going to show you some of the actual like concept art. So obviously you've seen this one before. This is from the artist Anna Nikonova, aka New Milky. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. So you see her work here. Some of these are very early concepts for Xayah. Like this is obviously later, but this is some of the earlier stuff showing her going through some of her different emotions, using her ears to express her emotions. Is one of my favorite things to do with elf-like characters. And you've got some of these Rakan concepts of him being flamboyant and having these wings that just like shoot out. It's like, hello, look at me. And I've got different wing concepts here, different wing designs. Apparently they thought of having him with a mask at first, maybe as sort of a way to show off his theatrical type of personality, but I'm assuming they kind of got rid of it because you needed to see Rakan's face. His face is, again, lit up. He's ecstatic. He's the opposite of okay, but you get what I'm saying. So plus the mask might have also sort of jived. It would have sort of, it would have been competition for Jin. Jin is kind of already the artist, actor character, theater character with a mask on. So Rakan would have kind of competed with that theming, and it wouldn't really have worked very well. So they instead made it more of a dancer, still theatrical, but in a different way from Jin. And of course, a lot of emphasis here on Rakan's movement. Rakan is defined by how he moves. A little bit more nice grayscale concept art. A lot of concepting for how he moves in game, how his movement affects his abilities, how his abilities will look. So many action lines here. You can see the way the lines blend into one another, the way they curve down. It's absolutely fantastic. You can even see some of these lines right here with some of these action lines. Great stuff, great stuff. And then the way some of his magic works, I'm assuming. So definitely check out this artist and check out this page too. Excuse me, on ArtStation. Apparently maybe the mask was meant to be used to sort of transform him into a bird form. Like maybe they would come together to form a bird, or they could each form their own sort of bird. How are you doing, bird? Flying around, huh? Little lovebird. Her name is Xayah, by the way. Xayah, like from Zelda. She's a little green lovebird, very cute. So you can see they kind of concepted abilities that they could share together. Different looks at the cape, kind of inspired by peacock feathers, of course, because peacocks are known for their show-offiness. And you can see concepting here on how his leg bones would work, because of course he doesn't have human legs, he has bird-like legs. So they would try to figure out how those, come together. Expression sheets, again, sort of just kind of seeing the personality of the character, helping iterate on it. So that's this artist's work. Now we're going to move to Daniel Orive. Is it Orive? Orive? Sorry. Orive. Senior character artist at Riot Games. Here's his profile on ArtStation. So here's, this we were looking at before, but this time it has the more final colors. We've got, hair concept for Xayah, because we've got to know what her hair looks like under that hood. It's really neat looking designs, sort of a turnaround without her cape on. You've got in-game concepting, which is very important because you've got to know how these colors are going to look when stacked up against the green-gray of Summoner's Rift. It's got to stand out from Summoner's Rift so that you can see her on the map easily, and you can see her standing out. And here's like her main colors that we were talking about. The main dark purple, the dress color of the dark purple, and then the pinkish purple of her hair that helps her face to stand out, but still goes with the rest of the colors very easily. Unlike the blue didn't quite match up. It needed to be more of a pink, and obviously, again, that's what they did here. And then, of course, her face color and kind of the tips of her ears. So you can see, too, that this color scheme kind of, if you rotate that color scheme so the white's facing up, it's like a mini version of Xayah. you see how the colors kind of stack up onto one another. So we've got, you know, different color schemes here that they were still experimenting with. You can see that some of this design is very complex, a lot of little tiny details in here, which of course couldn't exactly be translated in game, so they did have to simplify it a bit. But when they're concepting, they kind of could just go all out, because that's part of the fun of it, and trying to get a feel before you decide to go and simplify it a bit. Because unfortunately, you know, League, you have to have relatively simple character designs so that everything is readable in game. But that works too. I mean, sometimes it's great to have some of those simpler designs. In Warcraft, you can get away with a bit more because the characters aren't small. The characters, you see them on the screen right in front of you. They're kind of big. So when you're looking at your Warcraft character, you can get away with a lot more complexity in their designs, because you don't have to worry as much about, are they readable when they're this tiny? League characters have to be this tiny. Warcraft characters don't. Unless you're talking about like Warcraft, the older ones, the RTSs that were like big camera from in the sky, or Dota, something like that, you know. So, you know, more color concepts, different takes on her face. They ended up going with a much more rounded, yet still like heart-shaped type of face. And here's some concept for Rakan, but you can see how this face obviously couldn't really be used in the final, because again, like, the skin is too dead looking. He needs to be alive. He needs to be more of a living character, and he looks a little bit too serious, a little bit too Lord of the Rings elf, and not happy, jovial Birdman, peacock dude. So that's kind of what we were talking about earlier with some of these colors. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful artwork. Go ahead and check out these artists on ArtStation as well. There's more art as well, that artists that contributed to Xayah and Rakan, and I'd love to show more League artists as we go along with some of this series. You can see this guy also did the in-game model for Xayah, as well as her high poly sculpt. And if you don't know, there is a difference between the high poly sculpt and the in-game low poly sculpts. Like this, you could never put into the game because it's simply too high quality to put in the game. It would absolutely kill computers. But you can see how, compared to our in-game model, which is right here, there's a lot more smoothness, there's a lot more detail. It's a lot more smooth because there's a lot more polys in it, so you get more detail, you're able to do a lot more. He was actually able to model the stitches. Meanwhile, on here, the stitches are put into the texture. You can't model those because that's just too much polys wasted, when you can easily just texture it and it looks completely fine. Especially because League characters, again, are so small. You don't have to worry. You're never going to see them like this. The only time you're going to see them like this is maybe if it's one of those trailers where in-game they kind of zoom in on the character, or it's here on ArtStation where you actually get to see how they look close up. In-game, you're never going to see them this close. So you don't have to worry about the textures being a little bit low res here. But I feel like that might be a big talk for another day, about the difference between, high poly, low poly. I'm not experienced with 3D. I've only done a little bit of 3D, so I'm not super experienced in this at all. So I don't know. I trust someone else maybe to talk about this kind of thing more than me. But you can just kind of see why they've got to keep polys low, and most of the detail is all done through textures. This texture work is very detailed, very painterly, very the models themselves don't have much detail. The texture is what gives it life in this case. It's very hand-painted textures. In fact, let me see if I can... There we go. Okay. So you can... Again, I'm not an expert on this. You can kind of see how the model... there we go. You can see how there's not that much detail necessarily in the model. You see that this face right here, there's not much to it. There's not many polys here. you can't really tell necessarily what's going on with, she has no eyebrows here. There's no eyebrows modeled. It's barely a mouth. But when you move to textured, bam, you've got eyebrows, you've got detail here, you've got her eyeballs, you've got this little thing, you've got her lips here. The hair doesn't have much detail, but bam, now we've got like segments here. We've got, yeah, you see what I mean? Like the rope has like 2 polys on this side, but now you've got all that detail. So again, that's kind of a thing for another day. You notice the feathers, how the feathers just go from simple polyplanes to fully textured. Anyway, that's about it for this talk. It was kind of a long one. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot to say about these two because I adore their designs. If you want me to, in fact, a lot of what I said about their designs can apply to Kindred as well, because Kindred is meant to be the same kind of thing of 2 beings that come together as one, and so they have these complementing color schemes. If you want me to talk about Kindred in another video, I can do that. Excuse me. I'm up for talking about a lot of different champions, usually the ones that I actually like, and I like the designs of. I might talk about Nunu next. I'm a big fan of Nunu. It just started raining outside. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you want more, I will be, happy to do more. I've always wanted to do a lot more League of Legends type content because I'm more on the art side and not necessarily on a game design side. When it comes to this, I really love talking about colors and shape design, art, stuff like that. So if I make League of Legends videos, it would probably be a lot more on the art side. I might talk about the Odyssey event, I don't know. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really hope I was able to get some stuff out of this. If I missed anything or I was wrong about anything, if you guys are, any of you professional artists out there, any of you rioters would be happy to give me a hand in maybe explaining some design choices here that I might have missed. I'd love to hear about that. Love you guys. Thank you so much. I will see you boyos later, my dudes. Goodbye.